Some machines are born too early. They arrive carrying ideas the world isn't ready for. Tilting bodies, screaming jet turbines, computer brains, engines shaped like triangles, and the world laughs or shrugs and sends them to the scrapyard. Then, decades later, those exact ideas come roaring back and quietly take over the railways. These are the visionaries that history forgot. 10 astonishing locomotives so far ahead of their time, they never stood a chance. Let's meet them. Number 10, the Fairbanks-Morse train master. Let's begin in 1953 with a locomotive that was so far ahead of the curve that railroads literally complained it had too much power. The Fairbanks-Morse H2466, nicknamed the Train Master, arrived when the typical American diesel was a 4-axle machine of around 1,500 horsepower. The Train Master crushed that. It was a 6-axle beast producing 2,400 horsepower, making it the most powerful single-engine diesel locomotive in the world at its debut. No rival could match its output until Alco's RSD7 appeared in early 1954. Fairbanks-Morse advertised it, without much modesty, as the most useful locomotive ever built. Its power came from an unusual heart, a 2-stroke, opposed piston engine, a design borrowed from Fairbanks-Morse's marine business, where each cylinder held 2 pistons slamming toward each other. Riding on a pair of 3-axle trucks, the Train Master delivered a colossal 112,000 pounds of starting tractive effort, and it could accelerate faster than almost anything on the rails. Here's the tragedy. The Train Master was the blueprint for the future, the direct precursor of the high-horsepower 6-axle hood units that would completely re-dieselize North America a decade later. But in 1953, most railroads simply couldn't imagine needing that much muscle in a single unit. Some flat out believed it was overpowered, and the exotic opposed piston engine, brilliant at sea, was a maintenance headache in a locomotive shop that didn't understand it. The machine was heavy, hard on the track, and thirsty for cooling water. The result? Poor sales. Only around 125 were built, and the disappointment helped drive Fairbanks-Morse out of the locomotive business entirely. A handful of railroads that got it, like Southern Pacific, kept theirs running in Los Angeles commuter service well into the 1970s. Today, just one Train Master survives intact, preserved in Quebec. A machine that predicted exactly where railroading was going and was punished for arriving too soon. Number 9, the GM Aerotrain. 2 years later, in 1955, General Motors tried to reinvent the passenger train from scratch and produced one of the most beautiful failures in railroad history. It was called the Aerotrain, and it looked like it had rolled straight off the cover of a science fiction magazine. A jet-age turret cab, a finned tail like a 1955 Chevy station wagon, gleaming aluminum bodywork. The styling was led by Chuck Jordan, a 28-year-old GM designer who'd later shaped the Cadillac. The idea behind it was genuinely radical and genuinely ahead of its time. A lightweight, low-cost train set that could lure Americans back from cars and planes. To make it cheap, GM raided its own parts bins. The locomotive, the LWT-12, was essentially an ordinary EMD switcher engine, a 1,200 horsepower yard shunter wrapped in a gorgeous aerodynamic shell. The passenger cars were modified 40-seat GM intercity bus bodies, just 40 feet long, half the length and weight of a normal coach, riding on air suspension with luggage stowed underneath, exactly like a Greyhound. The cars were semi-permanently coupled into a fixed train set, a concept modern high-speed trains use everywhere today. GM claimed it could slash the cost per seat from around $2,500 to just $1,000, nearly bus fares. GM toured the 2 demonstrator train sets across the country in 1956, leasing them to the Pennsylvania Railroad, the New York Central, the Santa Fe, and the Union Pacific. And everywhere, the same verdict came back. That switcher engine was badly underpowered. The Aerotrain needed helper locomotives just to climb grades, and the featherweight bus-bodied cars, riding on that air suspension, delivered a rough, jarring, uncomfortable ride at speed. Every railroad rejected it. The 2 trains were sold at a loss to the Rock Island for humble Chicago commuter duty and retired by 1966. Both locomotives survive today in museums. The Aerotrain got the big idea right. Lightweight, streamlined, fixed train sets are the future of passenger rail. But its penny-pinching execution doomed it. It was a spaceship built from spare parts. Number 8, the John Henry. Now for one of the most ambitious and least remembered machines ever to turn a wheel. A locomotive that tried to drag the age of steam into the age of the computer. In May 1954, the Norfolk and Western Railway took delivery of locomotive number 2300. The crews named it John Henry, after the folk legend of the steel-driving man who beat a steam drill and then dropped dead. It was a fitting name. The N&W was America's last great steam holdout because it sat on top of vast, cheap coal reserves and didn't want to buy diesel fuel. So it made a daring bet. What if you could combine steam's free coal with the diesel's brilliant electric transmission? The John Henry was a coal-fired steam turbine electric locomotive built by Baldwin with a marine-style water tube boiler from Babcock and Wilcox. Instead of pistons and rods, coal fired a boiler at 600 psi. The steam spun a turbine, the turbine drove a generator, and the electricity powered traction motors on all its axles. Exactly like a diesel. It produced 4,500 horsepower at a time when a brand new diesel road switcher made barely 1,750. And it was genuinely futuristic in ways beyond the drivetrain. It had automatic boiler controls, an automatic stoker and injector, early automation decades ahead of the steam norm. At 161 feet long, including its water tender, it remains the longest steam locomotive ever built. Its tractive effort was monstrous. 175,000 pounds starting, dwarfing even N&W's legendary Class A and Y steam giants. Below 12 miles an hour, it could save up to 50% on fuel. But the dream unraveled. Coal dust and water kept getting into the electric traction motors. The controls were so complex that engineers struggled to master them. It was hugely expensive, too long for the railroad's turntables, and above medium speeds it was actually slower than N&W's existing steam. After less than 4 years, the John Henry was retired in January 1958 and quietly scrapped. The N&W finally surrendered and bought diesels. The tragedy of the John Henry is that its technology, electric drive and automation, was the future. It just bolted that future onto a fuel with no future at all. Number 7. The Deltic. In October 1955, an English company wheeled out a prototype so radical that under its skin, it hid one of the strangest engines ever built. It was called simply Deltic, and the name came from its power plant, the Napier Deltic engine. Picture a diesel engine where the cylinders aren't in a line or a V, but arranged in a triangle. 3 banks of cylinders forming the Greek letter delta, with a crankshaft at each corner. It was an opposed piston 2-stroke design with no cylinder heads and no valves, where pairs of pistons slammed toward each other. An 18-cylinder Deltic had 36 pistons and 3 crankshafts, and it spun at 1,500 RPM, nearly twice the speed of a conventional locomotive diesel. This bizarre masterpiece wasn't born for railways at all. It came out of a wartime British Admiralty program to build a lightweight, high-powered diesel for fast naval patrol boats, replacing dangerously flammable petrol engines. The design traced back to German Junkers aircraft engine concepts, and it produced staggering power for its weight. English Electric took 2 of these marine engines, detuned them slightly to 1,650 horsepower each for a longer life, and dropped both into a single prototype locomotive, the DP1. The result was 3,300 horsepower in a machine weighing just 106 tons. That made it the most powerful diesel locomotive in the world at the time, and astonishingly light with it, a 150% improvement in power to weight over English Electric's previous designs. Dressed in baby blue and cream with an American-style bulldog nose, it was a sensation. The prototype proved the concept so completely that British Railways ordered 22 production versions, the famous Class 55 Deltics, which from 1961 hauled expresses like the Flying Scotsman and gave Britain its first regular 100-mile-per-hour diesel service. But the prototype itself, the pioneer that started it all, is the forgotten one. After an engine oil leak, DP1 was quietly withdrawn in 1960 and handed to a museum, overshadowed forever by the fleet it inspired. A triangle-shaped engine born in a torpedo boat that redefined what a diesel could be. Number 6. The Union Pacific Big Blow. Now to the American West, and a locomotive that didn't rumble or chug, it screamed. Beginning in the early 1950s, the Union Pacific went hunting for raw power to haul enormous freight trains across Wyoming and Utah. Their answer was pure science fiction. The gas turbine electric locomotive, or GTL. Instead of a diesel engine, it used a gas turbine, essentially a stationary jet engine, spinning a generator to feed the traction motors. When ordinary diesels of the day made 1,500 to 1,750 horsepower, the very first GTLs made 4,500. UP fell in love with turbine power and built the largest fleet of these machines on Earth, running them from 1952 all the way to 1970. At their peak, the turbines reportedly hauled more than 10% of the entire railroad's freight. The ultimate version, delivered from 1958, came as 2-unit sets producing an incredible 8,500 horsepower, making them the most powerful locomotives in the world. They earned the nickname Big Blow, and for good reason. They were monsters in every sense. The turbine's exhaust roared out of the roof at around 150 miles per hour at temperatures near 850 degrees. The jet-like wail was so deafening you could hear one coming from miles away and feel it in your chest. They were so loud that some cities effectively banned them. Los Angeles became off-limits after a few ear-splitting visits. To make them economical, they burned Bunker C, a tar-thick residual oil so cheap refiners could barely give it away, though it had to be heated to around 200 degrees just to flow. So why did they vanish? The turbines were fuel-hungry gluttons, drinking roughly twice what a diesel would. When the price of that cheap Bunker C climbed in the 1960s, their whole economic advantage evaporated. Add in expensive maintenance, turbine blades eroded by dirty fuel, and rapidly improving diesels, and by 1970 every last one was gone. Turbine traction would flicker back to life again and again in the decades that followed, but never conquered the rails. The big blows were the loudest what-if in American railroading. Number 5. The Brush Kestrel. Back to Britain now, for a one-of-a-kind prototype that was, by one crucial measure, the mightiest diesel the country has ever seen, and almost nobody remembers it. In 1967, Brush Traction of Loughborough built a single locomotive as a rolling technology demonstrator, hoping to win big orders at home and abroad. They named it HS 4000 Kestrel. The HS for parent company Hawker Siddeley, the 4000 for its headline power, and that power was the point. Inside sat a Sulzer 16-cylinder engine producing 4,000 horsepower, making Kestrel the most powerful diesel locomotive ever to run in Britain, a record it still holds. It was designed to reach 125 miles an hour, roughly a decade before Britain's famous high-speed train made that speed normal. But the horsepower was only half the story. Kestrel was a laboratory of forward-looking technology. Where earlier British diesels used a conventional DC generator, Kestrel used an AC alternator feeding the motors through advanced silicon rectifiers. It bristled with early solid-state electronics controlling wheel slip, load, and voltage automatically. The whole philosophy was that a single, very powerful engine would need less maintenance than the twin-engine designs of the day and would end the need to double-head heavy freight. Kestrel worked. It hauled coal trains of over 2,000 tons and matched the timings of the crack expresses. And its transmission technology proved so sound that it fed directly into two hugely important later designs, the power cars of the high-speed train and the Class 56 freight fleet. So what killed it? Weight. After a fatal 1967 derailment caused by a broken rail, British Railways slashed the permitted axle load for fast trains. Kestrel, for all its clever weight saving, was simply too heavy on each axle to run fast safely. No home orders came. In 1971, the Great Orphan was sold to the Soviet Union, shipped out from Cardiff docks, tested on a Russian research railway, and then it simply disappeared behind the Iron Curtain. Its engine eventually removed and the rest believed scrapped. The most powerful diesel Britain ever built, lost and forgotten abroad. Number 4. The UAC TurboTrain. In 1968, an American aircraft company decided that if planes could fly fast, trains should too, and built a machine that set a record still unbroken today. The TurboTrain, built by United Aircraft Corporation, was a genuine glimpse of the future dressed in aluminum. Two ideas made it extraordinary. First, it was powered not by diesels but by gas turbines, specifically versions of the Pratt & Whitney aircraft turboshaft engine, the same family that powered small planes. Second, and just as radical, it could tilt. Its articulated cars, riding on shared bogies and hung from wishbone suspension arms, leaned into curves to let it corner faster, and sat low to the ground for a low center of gravity. It looked less like a train than an airliner that had lost its wings. And it was blisteringly fast. In a test on December 20th, 1967, a 3-car TurboTrain hit 170.8 miles per hour on a stretch of track in New Jersey. That remains the world speed record for a gas turbine rail vehicle. And remarkably, the fastest a production passenger train has ever gone in North America, a mark that Amtrak's modern Acela has never beaten. The TurboTrain entered service in both the United States and Canada in 1968, but it was rushed, cleared for service after just 1 year of testing, when trains normally get 6 or 7, and its debut was cursed. On its first Canadian demonstration run, it hit a truck at a level crossing. Early reliability was rocky, yet once the bugs were worked out, the rebuilt Canadian sets achieved an availability rate of over 97%. Its doom came from an unexpected direction: the 1973 oil crisis. Rising fuel prices destroyed the gas turbine's one economic advantage, and the tilt system was maintenance-heavy. The turbo made its final run in 1982, replaced by conventional trains, and, heartbreakingly, every single one was scrapped. Not one was preserved, but its DNA lived on, influencing the Canadian LRC and, decades later, feeding into the studies behind Amtrak's Acela, a record holder that history erased. Number 3, the EMD DDA40X Centennial. You may know this next machine as simply the biggest diesel locomotive ever built. What's forgotten is that it was also a secret laboratory that reprogrammed the future of railroading. In 1969, the Union Pacific commissioned EMD to build the ultimate locomotive, and the timing was poetic. The first one, number 6900, was rushed to completion to join the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad's Golden Spike on May 10, 1969. In its honor, the whole class of 47 was nicknamed the Centennials. The numbers are still jaw-dropping. Each Centennial packed 2 16-cylinder engines on a single frame for a combined 6,600 horsepower, making it, to this day, the most powerful single-frame diesel locomotive ever built. At 98 feet 5 inches long, it was also the longest diesel ever. Its frame so huge that EMD couldn't build it in-house and had to farm it out to a specialist fabricator. But here's the part that gets forgotten. Look at the model name, DDA40X. That X stood for experimental. The Centennials weren't just muscle, they were test beds. They pioneered modular, solid-state electronic controls that made diagnosing faults dramatically easier, and a self-loading feature that let crews test a unit without any trackside equipment. And those innovations didn't stay locked inside 47 giant locomotives. They flowed directly into EMD's Dash 2 line, launched in 1972, the electronics that would go into thousands upon thousands of ordinary locomotives, including the legendary SD40-2. In a very real sense, the control systems that modernized an entire generation of diesels were first proven on the Centennial. The giants themselves worked hard, each running around 2 million miles, before rising maintenance costs saw them stored and finally retired by 1986. They were so beloved that an astonishing 13 survived, nearly a third of the fleet, and one, number 6936, still runs today. The biggest diesel ever built was also, quietly, one of the most influential. Number 2, the Soviet TEP-80. Our runner-up is a machine that almost no one outside Russia has ever heard of, and yet it holds a record that has stood for over 30 years. In the dying days of the Soviet Union, the Kolumna Locomotive Works built something extraordinary. It was called the TEP-80, and only 2 were ever completed, in 1988 and 1989. It was a giant, a single locomotive body riding on 8 axles, powered by one enormous 20-cylinder, twin-turbocharged diesel engine, producing around 6,000 horsepower. It was designed to haul heavy passenger expresses at high speed across the vast, non-electrified distances of the Soviet rail network. And on October 5th, 1993, the second unit, TEP-800002, did something no diesel locomotive had ever done. On the October Railway, it was opened up to a top speed of 271 kilometers per hour, about 168 miles per hour. That is the fastest a diesel locomotive has ever traveled anywhere on Earth, and more than 3 decades later, nothing has come close to beating it. The record was set by the manufacturer's own team rather than certified by outside adjudicators, but it stands universally recognized as the diesel speed record. The tragedy is one of timing. The TEP-80 was a triumph of Soviet engineering that arrived at the exact moment the Soviet Union ceased to exist. The economic collapse that followed meant there would be no production run, no fleet, no glorious career hauling crack expresses across the steppe. Just 2 prototypes, one of which briefly became the fastest diesel in history, and then fell silent. Both machines survive, preserved in Russian museums, quiet monuments to a peak of diesel performance that the world blew straight past on its way to electric high-speed rail. The TAP-80 is the ultimate ahead-of-its-time locomotive in the most literal sense. It was, for one shining run, simply the fastest of its kind ever made, and hardly anyone knows its name. Number 1, the British Rail APT. And here it is, the number 1 forgotten visionary. A train branded a national embarrassment, a punchline, a famous failure, and yet its central idea has now conquered railways across the entire planet. Meet the British Rail Advanced Passenger Train. In the 1970s, British Rail faced a problem. Its main lines were winding, Victorian-era railways full of curves, and conventional trains had to slow down for every bend. Rather than spend billions rebuilding the track, BR's engineers had a brilliant idea. Build a train that could lean into the curves, like a motorcyclist, so it could take them far faster without throwing passengers around. This was active, powered tilting, and the APT pioneered it. The technology was breathtaking for its era. The experimental version, the gas turbine-powered APTE, set a new British rail speed record of 152 miles per hour in 1975. The electric prototype, the APTP, went even faster, 162.2 miles per hour in December 1979, a British record that would stand until 2006. It also had extraordinary hydrokinetic brakes, powerful enough to stop this high-speed machine within the spacing of the existing signals, an achievement as important as the tilt itself. But the APT was plagued by problems that had nothing to do with its brilliance. It was developed by brought-in outsiders, working apart from BR's own engineers, which bred bitter internal politics. Facing cancellation, management rushed the unfinished prototypes into public service in December 1981, where teething troubles with the tilt and brakes and reports of passenger nausea handed the newspapers a field day. The APT was mocked mercilessly and pulled from service almost immediately. Though it was quietly brought back in 1984, with the faults largely fixed, the damage was done. The project was cancelled, and the plain, non-tilting Intercity 125 became the backbone of British Rail instead. Here is the twist that makes it number 1. That failed active tilt technology was sold on, and it became the foundation of the Italian Pendolino. Today, tilting trains run all over the world. And in the ultimate irony, Pendolino tilting trains were bought back by Britain, and since the 2000s, run on the very same curvy West Coast main line the APT was designed for. The country that invented the active tilting train now imports it. The APT wasn't a failure. It was simply right, decades too soon. If you enjoyed meeting these forgotten pioneers, tell me in the comments which one deserves to be remembered most, and which visionary machine you think I should feature next. Do drop a like and subscribe for more stories from the rails. Until next time, keep them rolling.